Now we get to move on to, we have Trish Saywell, the editor-in-chief of the Northern Miner, standing by with Serafino Iacono, who is just a really excellent executive in our industry that is able to go into what others might consider high-risk jurisdictions and knows how to build mines and to find success for shareholders there. As a little aside, before I introduce Trish, who will introduce Serafino, when I first became a Northern Miner reporter back in the day, I became introduced to Serafino because his company was selling the Choco 10 gold mine in Venezuela, which was beautiful market timing. That was well done, Serafino. And Michael Berry, who went on to fame in The Big Short, was played by Christian Bale in the movie. Was actually, there was a bit of a proxy battle between you guys. So I don't know if that's going to come up in this call, but as a reporter, it was great. It was a very exciting story to cover at the time, and the shareholders did fantastically well out of that deal. Really,
we were. If only you would have listened to us.
I'll let you and Trish take it from there. Let me introduce Trish, and then our audience will get to enjoy a great conversation, I am sure. Okay, as I mentioned, Trish,
thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Serafino. It's great to see you. She has been a reporter for nearly 30 years in Canada and in Asia, and we were lucky enough to get Trish to join the Northern Miner back in 2007. She was named editor-in-chief at the beginning of this year. Before joining the Northern Miner, Trish worked in Asia for a number of publications, including United Press in New Delhi and the Hong Kong Standard, Asia Week, and the Far Eastern Economic Review in Hong Kong. At the Far Eastern Economic Review, she covered China from Hong Kong before being posted to Shanghai as the magazine's bureau chief in the late 1990s. She also served as the magazine's bureau chief in Singapore from 2001 until 2004. Trish has a master's degree in journalism from Columbia University in New York and a master's degree in South Asian Studies from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. She brings that wealth of experience, knowledge, expertise, and just overall smarts to the Northern Miner readers and viewers every day. Thank you, Trish, for being here. Thanks for this, and I'll let you introduce Serafino and let me get out of the way.
Well, thanks, Anthony, for the kind words. I'm delighted to introduce Serafino Iacono, the executive chairman of Gran Colombia Gold. I think it's safe to say that he is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Colombia, if not South America, where he's been investing in Colombia since the mid-90s and has lived there permanently since 2004. He's just had a tremendous track record, and I think it's clear that he's got ventures in Colombia that span a number of different industries, from oil and natural gas and pipelines to electricity distribution, coal, infrastructure, industrial minerals, gold and silver. And over the last 14 years, I think Serafino indirectly or directly has invested with his investors about $7 billion into the Colombian economy. So Serafino, I guess my first question to you would be, of all of the ventures in Colombia, and we'll talk about your other ventures later, and excluding Gran Colombia Gold, which we will also focus on a bit later, what are the ventures in Colombia that you're most proud of? My guess is one of them would be Pacific Rubiales Energy, which at one point hired 37,000 people and was the third largest oil producer in the country.
Actually, it was the largest private oil producer in Latin America. Okay. But not to boast.
On the top of your list.
I would say so. It's one of the top achievements. It was done by me and a group of very prominent ex-PDVSA people that did that. So that was, we were in the right place at the right time and in the right moment of the industry, which is, or as we're looking at gold right now, the right cycle. That was one of the great achievements. Actually, in Venezuela, some of the mines that we built in Venezuela we're very proud of. Loma de Nickel is a mine that I was involved, became one of the largest laterite nickel producers in Latin America. I started a company from the beginning until we sold it to Anglo-American. And Choco 10, as we were talking about, that was probably one of the great moments that we started hitting a second cycle of gold. And we've been very lucky. hitting the cycles is in many cases, whether it's oil or copper or gold, it's the most important thing. Have the longevity to stay around and to make sure that when the cycles like we are right now in a gold and silver cycle, we're there.
Sure. I wonder if you'll indulge us and take us back to your early career in the 20s and your 30s. Well, we can go start even further back. You were born in Italy and your dad was transferred to New York when you were 14 years old. So you finished high school in New York. You studied business at NYU. And then in 1982, with Brian Hinchcliffe, I think, at American Mining, you got your teeth wet in mining. And they had a mine in Honduras, El Mochito. It was during that early period that you met one of your lifelong friends and often business partners, Frank Giustra. So, but then in 1989, you went out on your own. And that's why I want to talk about Venezuela a bit more. If you could talk about some of the crowning achievements in Venezuela before Chavez came in and sort of ruined everything.
Sure, no, Venezuela, we're talking now 1989. Again, it was a changing moment in the gold cycle after coming out of a very bad years in the gold and silver industry. I remember gold when we went there in '89. I think it was at about $200 an ounce, and we had a choice at the time. We were looking for projects. Our choice as a group, but as the AMPAC group, we had two choices: either to go with Brian Hinchcliffe to look at projects in Venezuela or in Chile. I had more connections at the time in Venezuela, and I chose Venezuela as the place to go look at gold and other projects, mining projects. After we had left Honduras and we had sold to Breakwater Resources, the El Mochito mine. So we went through Venezuela, and it was very, very fortunate. In Venezuela, we started with the first project we went to look at was a project that was left by Le Nicol called Loma de Nickel, which I told you we sold. We developed a project. It was a project very well defined. We went after, that was 1990 to 1991. I stayed with the company, and then Brian and his group decided that they wanted to stay focused on the nickel project. And it was time for me. I was 29, I was 29 years old, 30 years old. At the time, it was time for me to just move on and start doing our own project. And I started seeing an opportunity in the gold sector. Coming to Venezuela, it was the days that they had just discovered, or that it wasn't discovered, it was work, but Placer Dome, and I believe it was Placer Dome. It was such a long time ago. But one of the major companies had come in, and they had taken La Cristina mine. So there was a discovery of 3 million ounces of gold. In those days, 3 million ounces of gold was huge. What still is huge, but it was huger. It was a bigger thing to do. So we went in and we started staking grounds in the surrounding area in a district called Kilometer 88 and El Callao and the El Callao region. And after a few months, this area became the hottest area with all the junior companies in Canada. I became, through the help of Frank Giustra, we did an alliance with Robert Friedland in those days and created Venezuelan Goldfields. And we brought in at the time Ian Telfer to be the CEO of the company. He had just left Heike Batista's company and was looking for an adventure in some other piece of business. But that was a long time ago. So we, from there, we went in to develop, we started working on Ven Gold, and then I started another company called Bolivar Gold, and Bolivar Gold then was sold to Monarch Resources through the years. After that, we developed the first mine that was the Tommy mine that at the time was producing 100,000 ounces of gold.
And you sold El Choco mine to Goldfields, right?
Yeah, the Choco mine was more in 2005. It was my second run into Venezuela to look at project. We bought a project from Cemex that they had, we knew for many years. It was, again, in one of these cycles, lower cycle when gold went down. This was in 2000. I went back to Venezuela to look at this project and to buy this project. We bought it, we drilled it, developed it, built a mine, put it into operation and sold the mine. And we were producing 120,000 ounces a year. And we sold the mine to Goldfields with the story that we were talking about when Michael Berry trying to stop me from selling the mine to Goldfields. And I wanted desperately to sell the mine because I knew that Chavez eventually was going to nationalize the industry, and we wanted to be out of that investment.
And you still have one asset there that I think you invested like 35 million into, Los Increíbles.
It's Lo Increíble A and B. We actually drilled it. It belonged to Bima Gold in those days. I bought it from Bima Gold in the 98. And then we spent money until 2007 there. And then it got nationalized in 2000, at the end of 2007 by the government. But we have a claim on the property. It's got 6 million ounces of gold, open pit, incredible project, 4 to 5 grams of gold per ton.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you'll get it back one day. I'm sure.
Eventually. Nothing. We have an expression in South America that says that nothing lasts forever, and nobody can resist that long. So eventually, we will get it back.
Before we get into Gran Colombia Gold, I wanted to ask you about your venture in Italy, Sardinia Gold Mines. Was it called Sardinia Gold?
Correct. So Sardinia Gold, yes.
And it was
we copper gold deposit, various copper gold deposits. We started looking at the pyrite belt that exists in Europe, and it goes from Sardinia all the way to Spain, that at one point geologically were the same project. We went to Sardinia looking for gold. We knew that there was a very friendly government. It was a time that Silvio Berlusconi had become president or the prime minister of Italy. So very friendly to business, to investments. We went there and we bought a mine from an Australian group that was called Sardinia Gold. And it was producing about 70,000 ounces a year of gold and a nice amount of copper. And then we started staking 2 other properties, very large property. One was the Osilo property and the other one, Montolastedo. Montolastedo is still one of the greatest deposits, in my opinion, to be developed in the pyrite belt. When we started looking at it, potentially had 3-4 million ounces of gold, open pitable. It's just difficult being in Italy.
Yeah. And you also dabbled in the .com sector with Wave Telecommunications. That was a really big success story for you.
It was very, like I said, at the moment, it was a very successful thing. We took a company when there was a downside of the gold industry. We were left in Colombia with a company called Gran Colombia Resources at the time. It was our first Gran Colombia with $35 million in cash. Nobody wanted to be in the gold industry. And the .com came in and we bought into a company, took the investment into a company called Storage Access, which at the time, if you would have asked me what it meant, I had no idea. It was just, but funny enough, now it's what would be a virtual storage facility. That's what it was. And we invested in the company, and I stayed with the company for a few months, and then I left. because I honestly, I had a banker from CIBC telling me that I was a brick and mortar guy, and I didn't understand the valuation of these companies because it was trading at 150 times future earnings. So I just didn't understand the concept of future earnings. So stock went from 35 cents to $22. A lot of our investors made a lot of money, and we sold it. And then it was one of these victims of these dot-coms.
So I think it's fair to say that you through the course of your career, you have some of the most amazing contacts. Your Rolodex is the envy of many people, I'm sure. And I think one writer described it as you've got some of the most important people, past presidents, present day politicians, business people on your speed dial. Is that an exaggeration?
Well, a little bit. I have very good connections. We have very good friends and very good enemies. So it's and in life you gotta have both. Otherwise, it would be weird. We are. My philosophy has always been, when you go into a country, I've always worked in Latin America. I worked in the areas where I can have a certain kind of a little bit political influence, or what I would call the know-how and the know-who in the country. Mm-hmm. The know-how, you have to have it with technical people that do the work for you, and that they just don't, they look for projects that are top projects and projects that are feasible to do. The know-who in a country, it's just as important as the know-how. Mm-hmm. You gotta know, you gotta be like a local, act like a local, and understand the local politics, and be well connected. We were very lucky in Venezuela. I was very close to President Carlos Andrés Pérez. We were politically connected, very well accepted in the society, which is very important over there too. When I moved to Colombia, it was the same thing. I didn't go to Colombia as a stranger. Was very friendly with, at the time, was the governor of Antioquia, that then became the president of Colombia, President Uribe. To me, one of the greatest guys and one of the greatest presidents in Latin America. A guy that the reason that I went to Colombia was because he became president. Mm. And I knew that it was going to be a fantastic opening for the country and a turnaround for the country. And with, our goal was always to be politically neutral, because we are business people, so we cannot be passionate with politics. So we were friends with President Uribe, and we were friends with President Santos, and all the presidents that have been around have been, have been people that respected us and they know that we have contributed to a very large development of investments in Colombia, in the oil industry, in the mining industry, in the infrastructure industry, which they're very appreciative. Yeah, and I lived there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's been part of your philosophy. You have to live in country. As much as you like to be in Canada, you're there, and that's where your business is. Correct. To me, it's if you go into a country, no matter what country, I mean, if you're going to be developing business, maybe you can do it if you have a very group of people. I'm a very hands-on type of guy with the people that we work on. But you have to be present in the country that you're developing an asset. If you're investing $300-400 million in a mine, it's okay. You can do it remotely out of Vancouver, but it's not the same as you being in the country and knowing every day, living the politics, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, you don't want to be a visitor. You want to be a resident, mm-hmm. And that's what we do. Yeah, that's absolutely part of our philosophy. Okay, well, let's talk about Gran Colombia Gold. I mean, actually, you have one of the former mines ministers on your board, but it's been a tremendous success story. And 4 years ago, you were trading at 75 cents. Today, you're at 650 or so. Obviously significantly undervalued. You've got $110 million in cash in the bank. You trade at 2 times EBITDA. Tell us about your goals for the company going forward, say in the next couple of years. You've got expansion plans, you want to get to 400,000 ounces of gold. Talk about your priorities over the next couple of years.
Sure. No, look, Gran Colombia is a fantastic company, a fantastic vehicle with multi-dimensional projects. One of the most important one, obviously, is the Segovia project. We are the largest producer right now in the country. We're going to close this year close to 250,000 ounces of gold in production. Company went through a turnaround that Lombardo Paredes, that is the CEO of the company, and myself with Mike Davis and all of our group and employees put our heart into turning it around from a company that was on the verge of going bankrupt with gold at 1,000 to a company that right now sits with about between securities and cash with $300 million in the bank. So, and making money. We have probably what is one of the most incredible concessions in Colombia. There is only 3 concessions like this in Colombia. It is not a concession. It's a title and an ownership of what they call a king's right. So we are the owners of the land. We own 3,500 hectares of land. That's 35 square kilometers of land. And we own the mineral rights, not the government of Colombia. We pay to the government of Colombia a royalty, but it's in a different type of royalty that we would pay on a regular basis if it was a government concession. So it's very important to have that. It's very important for that it is one of the oldest mines in Colombia. It is the number 3 on grade richest mine in the world. So we produce an average of 17 grams of gold, and it's been producing between 11 and 17 grams for the past 150 years. And it hasn't stopped. More than 6 million ounces have been produced in the past. And the last million ounces out of those 6 million ounces, 1.2 million actually, belongs to us. We have produced since we took the mine over in 2011. So huge. We work three mines. This is not a mine, it's a district where there is 23 mines. And out of those 23 mines, we are working 3 on a full scale. And the 4th one we're putting into operation this year, which is the Carla mine. And there we're mining an average of 22 grams of gold per ton. Amazing. So very rich, very prolific. And still we have touched maybe 20% out of 23 additional mines that we're going to be targeting in the next few years to grow the profile of the company and to produce more gold. Our goal in Segovia is to produce within the next 4 years to take the production to 400,000 ounces. That's our goal, inside goal of the company. But Segovia is only one project out of Marmato. Marmato, we took the philosophy of diversifying, not being a one project company. We have Segovia, we have Marmato, which is now Caldas Gold, which just spun off. We are the largest shareholder of Goldex in Guyana, where there is a 6 million ounce deposit. The Marmato project got 6 million ounces in resources and 2.5 million ounces in reserves to be mined. So we diversified ourselves by taking assets that we had hidden inside the company that we were getting no value and started spinning off. We just launched and became a larger shareholder of a company called Denarius that we just finished raising money yesterday. We raised 8.4 or $9 million. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we raised the money. Gran Colombia is the largest shareholder of this company. And we took assets that were more silver than gold assets. Why did we take these assets? We took them because they were inside a package of concession. We have 240,000 ounces production, or 220,000 ounces, sorry, production out of Segovia. and it's gold with silver. And then we had a concession hidden in Gran Colombia that had more silver with gold. But when we're talking about numbers, we're talking about on the silver side of this Denarius company that we just formed, where we put a concession called Guia Antigua, that is an extension of the Segovia mine, and where we put the Zancudo mine, and now a new acquisition that we're doing. Unfortunately, I can talk, but it's going to be also an incredible acquisition in Europe. These two assets have assets with an average of 400 grams of silver, but still with 7 grams of gold. So very rich, very potential, and areas that are going to be developed. So our goal with Gran Colombia was, where are we going to be in the next few years? We want to create a company that's going to grow inside Segovia. Marmato now is a company that will run on its own. We have managed to raise $250 million into this company. We are now well-financed into taking the 25,000 ounces a year production that we have right now currently to 50,000 by next year. And by 2023, we're going to be producing 200,000 ounces. We're expanding the existing mine, and we're going to be building the new mine where we have this Zona Baja, a new discovery with 6 million ounces of gold. I mean, and it's an incredible project. So what do we want to be as a company? We want to have satellite companies like Marmato, like Goldex in Guyana, like the Denarius in this company, and look for opportunity like Western Atlas, a little company that's going to have great potential in the exploration. They're looking for projects here. They're looking for in Dominican Republic. They're looking for projects in Colombia. More exploration than anything else. Mm-hmm. So we want to create a portfolio that's got growth, and with the goal of us becoming that producer between Marmato, Segovia, and everything in the 400 to 500,000 ounces a year within the next 5 years.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Thank you.
One of the really interesting things I find about Gran Colombia is your financing strategies, which are a little bit different than some other companies. I mean, you've created this bond, or you did in the past create a bond that paid a very high interest rate. Shareholders loved it. It was very successful. And what was your thinking behind that financing structure?
Well, everybody, necessity was the most important thing in a market that there wasn't people buying that much equity when gold was at $1,000. We needed to restructure Gran Colombia. We had debt in there that was a very expensive debt, even more expensive and very difficult to control. They needed restructuring. So we were being pushed into doing a streaming and doing something with Gran Colombia on the Segovia project, and we just didn't want to put a royalty on the Segovia project. It would have been just insane to have something like that at the time. So we came out, we said, all right, everybody wants to have the streaming. Let's try to put out an instrument. And we created with GMP, myself, Gene McBurney, that was the chairman of GMP, we came up with the idea of creating a new bond that was sort of like a mini streaming, a streaming that could reach the small investor instead of a company like, although I do business with Wheaton, and I think Wheaton is a great company. We just took $110 million on their money in Segovia. At the time, the needs were different. And was a lot more expensive and less competitive for these companies to give money to people. Mm-hmm. So we said, all right, instead of me giving for life return on investment to Franco-Nevada or Euro-Nevada or Wheaton, let's create an instrument that we can achieve the same thing. Get the money that we need to make this the mine develop. So we came up with an instrument that would pay at 7.5% in the case of Gran Colombia, at 8%, coupon. And gold was at the time at about 1,200 when we did the issue of the thing. And we said anything above $1,300 of gold, we guarantee $1,300, $1,300 gold. Anything below 1,300, we'll put more gold to pay for the debt that we're paying, the interest and the principal on this thing. But anything that is above 1,300, this is a bonus for the people that give us the money on this bond, and this bonus will pay you whatever gold is. If gold is at 13, you don't get anything. If gold is at 13.50, the $50 that you have on that gold, that it's related to the amount of money that you lend us, gets paid on a quarterly basis. So we put an instrument that pays interest on a monthly basis, a principal on a quarterly basis, and a bonus every quarter that it's determined by the gold that we put out. Every single month, we set aside an amount of gold that then at the end of every 3 months we sell. And at the end of every 3 months, 1,300 goes to pay principal. Anything above 1,300 is your bonus. And as we didn't know that gold was going to go to 1,900, I was very happy with 1,400, 1,500 gold. I was one of the biggest bondholder. I still am the largest. At the time, I think I put in about $15 million on the bonds. And it was one of the greatest investments that we made. And we attached a warrant to it. So the warrant today is worth, which was a warrant that was done at $2.25. Today is worth close to $5. It's a 5-year warrant. The bond is worth 109% into the market. It's B+ rated. And at the end of the day, my return on my investment, it's close to about 19% with the bonus that I get. So our investors felt great because they became a mini streaming, but it's a limited stream. This bond is going to, by next year, it's going to be all repaid. We're paying it 2 years ahead of time. That's all well done. So it was a very successful, which we've repeated it now into the Caldas Gold. We just raised $87 million or $89 million into the same kind of structure bond, and it was very successfully placed.
Fantastic. Definitely a great idea to do. And I guess you'll be doing more of those, possibly?
It depends. Maybe on this new company, this new venture, it's going to be a great little company. It's the Denarius is going to be a great little silver company. Let's go.
I guess my last question, if you just let me put in one more before I turn it over to questions, is what would be your advice to young people starting out in the business?
Find another business. It's a very painful business. No, look, I think it's wonderful that there is. It's a cyclical business. You got to love the industry. You got to love gold. You got to love mining. Although I'm a finance guy, I love mining. I think it's incredible. And I look at everybody that is talking about renewable energy and all these wonderful things, and all these environmentalists that are going around, telling you how mining is this and mining is that. And the reality is that if it wasn't for mining, we wouldn't be talking on these screens, and we wouldn't be having conversation with electricity. And if it wasn't for oil, and if it wasn't for gas, we'd be living in the Stone Age. And even in the Stone Age, we used to do mining to take the stones to make the tools. So it's a natural thing for us to be in. People should love it and should embrace it and just be responsible citizens and do mining the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay.
Couldn't think of a better place to end on. It's very difficult to interject myself to such a great conversation. This is one of those conversations I think we could all just sit back and listen to for another hour. I just wish I had a whiskey in my hand. So
I'm going to have one in a few minutes.
Well, you're a lucky man. I'm still a few hours away, but please enjoy it for me. Hey, Serafino, even before the comment about find another industry, I was going to say, what a refreshingly just forthright and honest conversation. Your insights were fantastic, and to be able to share them in such a direct way, it's really a privilege for all of our viewers, myself, Trish, as usual, extraordinary job guiding this. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I know there's questions there, but we just have so many. How about just really one quick one? What's the name of the new silver spinoff? Is what one of our.
It's called Denarius.
Oh, that's the Denarius.
take a look at it. It's going to be a great little new company that we're putting together. And Anthony, so great to see you. You just brought back some incredible memories of that gentleman over there. That was a tough guy to deal with.
Well, and you dealt with him. You went toe to toe with Michael Berry and won. Not everyone can say the housing market can't say the same thing.
Yes.
Great to see you, Serafino. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay.
Cheers, both of
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.